Garçon, can I get a sparkling water with a slice of lemon, not lime? Eden Rivers didn't even glance at him. The man in the tailored black suit blinked once, lips parting slightly. Across the ballroom, laughter floated like bubbles in champagne flutes. Crystal chandeliers glittered above as if heaven had dropped its jewels onto the ceiling. But at this exact moment, all Grayson Vale saw was a woman who mistook him for a waiter. And for some reason, he didn't correct her. He looked down at the flute of untouched champagne in his hand, then back at the woman, now thumbing rapidly on her phone. Her red lipstick hadn't budged since she walked into the room. Confident, sharp. She wasn't wearing the $1,000 gowns most attendees did. Her black dress was clean-cut, modest, but the fire in her voice made her 10 feet tall. "I'm sorry," he said smoothly, deep voice even. "We're out of sparkling. Would still water do?" She looked up for the first time. Their eyes met, and it was like the rest of the gala blurred into fog. Hazel eyes. Steady. No nonsense. She scanned his face like she was processing a math problem. He waited for the flicker of realization. The sudden change of tone. The apology. The inevitable, "Oh my God, you're him." It didn't come. "Fine," she said back to her phone. "Just hurry. This whole night's a circus." He raised a brow. "You don't seem to be enjoying yourself." "I don't enjoy hypocrites sipping $1,000 wine while pretending to care about poor children." "Interesting." He set the champagne down on a tray nearby that wasn't his. "What do you do then?" Eden sighed, finally giving him her full attention. "I run the West Side Haven, a shelter that's been underfunded for years while these same donors take tax write-offs for pretending to help us." Grayson's heart skipped. West Side Haven. That was her. He'd read her name on reports. She'd refused 3 grant proposals from his foundation. Too many strings attached, she'd said. But seeing her here, in full firebrand form, was unexpected. "And you are?" she added, squinting at his name tag. There wasn't one. He never wore them. "Call me Gray," he said simply. She narrowed her eyes. "No last name." He smiled. "You didn't give me yours either." She folded her arms, unimpressed. "Figures." Another intern sent to schmooze the crowd. He bit his cheek to stop a grin. A server walked by, and Grayson casually plucked a bottle of sparkling water from their tray, plus a lemon wedge. He offered it to Eden like a magician revealing a hidden card. She blinked, surprised. "You actually listened. Rare skill in this room, I hear." For the first time, her mouth curved into a faint smile. It disappeared as fast as it came. She took the drink, nodded, then walked off toward the far end of the room, where a group of suited men were arguing over donation tiers. Grayson stood there for a moment, the ghost of her smile lingering in his mind. That's when Clara Vale, his grandmother, appeared beside him, holding a glass of Pinot Noir and an eyebrow raised to the ceiling. "Oh dear," she murmured. "That didn't look like the usual fan encounter." "She thinks I'm staff," Grayson said, still watching Eden. "And you didn't correct her?" He shook his head. "She was interesting. She was sharp," Clara corrected, sipping. "And correct. Half this room is pretending to care. But you, darling, are pretending to be a waiter now." "I just wanted to observe." Clara snorted. "You're a 34-year-old billionaire, not a spy. Stop playing games." Grayson didn't answer. Instead, he slipped something from his pocket, a sleek silver pen engraved in cursive. "For the one who sees beyond titles." He ran a thumb over the inscription. "That was your father's," Clara said softly. "I know. I think she should have it." Clara blinked. "You just met her." He smiled. "Exactly." Later that night, Eden sat in the back of a rideshare, head throbbing from the noise and lights. She opened her clutch and blinked. A pen she didn't remember owning lay inside. Silver. Heavy. She frowned, running her finger along the engraving. "For the one who sees beyond titles." Weird. She tucked it back in her purse, leaned her head against the window, and whispered, "Figures. Even the waiters at these events are cryptic." Grayson stood alone on the upper balcony of the hotel, watching the city lights glitter far below. The gala was a success, apparently. 5 million pledged. He couldn't remember a single speech. Only her voice. He whispered to the wind, "Eden Rivers." Then smiled. "He brought me sparkling water with lemon." and didn't even correct me when I barked at him like a Karen. Eden took a savage bite of her muffin. Across the battered desk, Layla, her best friend and co-coordinator at Westside Haven, choked on her coffee. You did what to a random server? I thought he was a waiter, Eden muttered. He was dressed like one. Layla narrowed her eyes. Black suit? No name tag. Eden nodded. Layla smirked. That was probably a guest, not staff. Too late now. Eden waved a hand. He even got me water with lemon. Layla leaned back, teasing. So he was cute. Eden blinked. I don't remember. Liar. Meanwhile, across the city, a very different kind of conversation was unfolding in a sleek, sunlit office at the Vale Foundation headquarters. Grayson sat in silence as his assistant, Theo, clicked through slides on a massive screen. You left the gala after 10 minutes of actual FaceTime with donors, Theo droned. Then ghosted your own speech slot. Again. Grayson sipped his coffee. It was still a record fundraising night. Because Clara gave your speech instead. She's better at it. Theo sighed. Gray, I get it. The costume, the anonymity. But it's not sustainable. You're CEO, not Batman. I wasn't pretending, Grayson said calmly. I just didn't feel like being Grayson Vale last night. Theo raised an eyebrow. Did someone mistake you for staff again? Grayson's silence said it all. Theo's jaw dropped. And you let them? Grayson spun the silver pen in his fingers, the engraved quote flashing under the lights. She was different. Oh no, she works at Westside Haven. Theo stared. The shelter you tried to fund 3 times and got rejected every time? The same. You're obsessed. Grayson grinned. I'm curious. That afternoon, Eden stood in the middle of Westside Haven's main playroom, watching a 5-year-old named Miko try to stuff a plush duck into a cereal box. Doesn't fit, buddy, she said gently. I'm trying to mail it to my real mom, he whispered. Eden crouched, her chest tightening. Want help? He nodded. Behind her, Layla peeked in. Your waiter just applied for our open volunteer role. Eden blinked. Come again. Layla handed her a printed form. Name Gray. No last name. Previous experience. Lots of dishwashing. Eden turned slowly. Standing in a lobby, in jeans, no suit, no slick gala lighting, was the man from last night. Grayson, smiling, holding a donation box filled with books, snacks, and one very confused goldfish in a bag. I figured you needed more than water, he said. Eden blinked. You follow me here? No. I read your shelter's name in a brochure. Googled it. Showed up. Layla whispered, he's cute. Then disappeared. Eden folded her arms. You don't just walk into a nonprofit and start volunteering. Grayson shrugged. Why not? There are rules. Then tell me the rules. Eden blinked. Not the usual type. She hesitated. No flirting, she said. He grinned. Define flirting. Exactly that. Got it. She eyed him suspiciously. Why are you here? I want to help. That's vague. He offered the pen. She froze. Lost something at the gala, he said smoothly. Thought this belonged to you. Eden took it, heart skipping. How'd you know it was mine? I saw you drop it. It wasn't a lie. Not exactly. She stared at the engraving again. For the one who sees beyond titles. The words itched at the edge of something familiar. Fine, she said. You can shadow this week. 1 week. Cleaning, tutoring, kitchen duty. No flirting, he repeated, mock saluting. She almost smiled. Almost. 2 hours later, Grayson stood in the Westside Haven kitchen wearing an apron that read, Mess Happens. He was slicing carrots badly and laughing as a 7-year-old girl named Tammy tried to correct his grip. You're holding it wrong, she scolded. You're going to slice off your thumb. Grayson winced. You say that like you've seen it happen. I have. To Layla. She screamed and cried. Duly noted. From the hallway, Eden watched him. Noticed how he didn't flinch when the kids made a mess. How he asked them their favorite books. How he knelt to their level when they spoke. She shook it off. One kind volunteer doesn't change the world. But as she turned to go, her gaze fell on the pen again, still in her pocket. That night, Grayson returned to his penthouse, smelling faintly of tomato sauce and glitter. Clara was waiting with a glass of red wine and a judgmental eyebrow. You look like you got tackled by daycare. I did, and you smell like meatballs. I made them. Badly. Clara sipped. This girl better be extraordinary. Grayson sat beside her. She is. You're still lying to her. I'm letting her see who I am, not what I own. She'll find out. I hope she does. But not yet. Clara sighed. Just don't break a heart you admire. Grayson looked out the window. I think hers is already cracked. You can't fix a broken toy with glue. You have to sit with it first. Listen to what it's missing. Grayson paused mid-step. The voice came from behind a curtain of hanging paper lanterns in the art room. He peeked through and saw Eden kneeling beside a little boy, helping him assemble a cardboard rocket. The boy, maybe 6, had big eyes and a permanent frown. He gripped a crumpled drawing in his left hand, smudged from tears. Eden sat cross-legged on the floor, her dress dusty with glitter. Want to show me the planet you drew? The boy shook his head. That's okay, she said softly. Sometimes I draw things I don't want anyone to see too. Grayson didn't move. He didn't even blink. It was like watching sunlight try to enter a locked room. Quiet, patient, and impossible to ignore. A nurse walked by and whispered, That's Noah. Doesn't talk much. Only to her, sometimes. Grayson nodded, taking in every detail. Later that afternoon, Eden caught Gray in the hallway, holding a mop like a weapon. One of the twins had thrown applesauce all over the bathroom. He was losing. Need backup? She teased. Only if you come with a hazmat suit. Eden laughed, the sound unexpectedly soft. They cleaned together, shoulder to shoulder, water splashing everywhere. She handed him a bucket. He handed her a spray bottle. Ever worked in places like this? She asked. Grayson shrugged. Not really. I usually observe. From a distance? He nodded. Well, she said, up close is messy, eh? And better. She didn't answer, just smiled faintly. They didn't notice the door creak open. Noah stood silently, watching them. After a beat, he walked in, holding the cardboard rocket. Glue, he whispered. Grayson froze. Eden's eyes widened. That's the first time he's spoken all day. Grayson knelt. I can help. Together, they sat on the floor, billionaire, caretaker, child, fixing a fragile rocket with broken wings. Later that week, Eden found Gray in the donation room, sorting through clothes. She handed him a paper bag. You left this in the staff room. It was his silver pen. He took it carefully, fingers brushing hers for a second too long. You always carry this? She asked. Always. Engravings interesting. It was my father's. Eden hesitated. You never talk about him. I never get asked. She studied him, expression softening. He gave it to you? No. He died before he could. My grandmother gave it to me when I turned 18. What's the quote from? Grayson smiled. A book. Which one? His eyes flickered. You would know it. Eden tilted her head. Try me. Grayson hesitated. Then, The Boy and the Silent Star. Eden's mouth dropped open. I used to read that every night as a kid, she whispered. It was everything. Grayson blinked. So did I, he said quieter now. It was my mom's favorite. Eden looked down at the pen, now resting in her hand. Strange. Feels like we're circling the same stars. That evening, Grayson called Clara. She knew the book. Clara didn't sound surprised. Of course she did. And when I said the title, she looked like she saw a ghost. Clara poured tea on her end of the line. Some stories chase us. I'm not sure I believe in fate. Then call it orbit. You two were always meant to pull close. Grayson smiled. But Gray, Clara added, voice firming. You can't orbit forever. Eventually, stars collide, or they burn out. The next day, Eden brought coffee to the main room, only to find Grayson asleep on the bean bag, Noah curled beside him like a kitten. They'd both passed out during story time. She watched them silently for a long moment. Noah's tiny hand clutched Grayson's shirt. Grayson's head rested against a wall, a book open on his lap, The Boy and the Silent Star. Eden knelt and gently covered them both with a blanket. She didn't touch the pen in her pocket. She didn't wake them up. She just stood, heart caught in something unfamiliar. Not quite affection, not quite fear. Maybe both. That night, Eden sat at her desk, flipping through old donation records. Grayson Vale's name never appeared. But someone called GV Holdings had anonymously funded 3 new beds last winter. She frowned. Then she opened her browser and typed, Grayson Vale. 100 photos flooded the screen. Sleek suits, gala carpets, magazine covers. One image froze her. It was him, but cleaner shaven, sharper, colder. The man who brought her lemon water. The man who danced around his past. She stared at the screen for a long time, then clicked away. She wasn't ready yet. You ever feel like someone's handing you a beautiful gift, but you're too scared to open it? Eden didn't mean to say it out loud, but the words escaped anyway, half whispered into the dim kitchen light of West Side Haven as she stood beside Gray, chopping vegetables for dinner shift. He didn't look up. Yeah, he said quietly. All the time. It had been 2 weeks since Gray started volunteering. 2 weeks of children laughing louder, of Noah speaking more, of Grayson setting aside tailored suits for scuffed sneakers and paint-splattered jeans. No one suspected he was anything other than Gray, the dishwashing guy who can't cook. Except Eden. Something didn't sit right. Too many near slips. Too many polished answers. And the pen. Always that silver pen. Today, she watched him read to the kids again, his voice low and gentle, as if every word mattered. And still, she couldn't shake the unease. Later that day, as Gray scrubbed kitchen trays, a man in an expensive coat walked in. Eden saw it happen from a hall. The two locked eyes for half a second. Gray stiffened. The man grinned. Mr. Vale, wrong person, Gray interrupted sharply. I think you have me confused with someone else. The man's smile faded. My apologies. Must be the light. He left quickly. Eden stepped inside. Who was that? No idea. Gray didn't meet her gaze. You looked like you knew him. I didn't. You're sure? He dropped a tray with a loud clatter. Eden, can we not do this right now? That was new. Frustration. Defensive. She stepped back. Right. She left the room. But not the suspicion. That night, Eden called Layla. Something's off, she whispered into the phone. I think he's hiding something. Layla yawned. He's a volunteer, not a Russian spy. I think he's rich. Dead silence. Rich, Eden clarified. Like sparkling water with lemon rich. Layla laughed. Okay, now I'm interested. I'm serious. You just don't like not knowing, Ed. Eden looked at the pen on her desk. Ran her thumb along the engraving. You're right, she said softly. I don't. Across town, Clara Vale stepped onto Grayson's balcony with 2 glasses of scotch and a look that said she wasn't in the mood for lies. She called you Mr. Vale. Case in sight. It was a slip. No, you're slipping. You're not a good liar, darling. You never were. I didn't want to be Grayson with her. I wanted to be someone she could trust. Clara sat beside him. Trust built on lies doesn't last. She's different. I know. That's why I'm scared. He didn't reply. She handed him a folder. Your board wants to pull funding from West Side. They say your personal involvement is a conflict. Grayson flipped it open. Blinked. They're threatening the shelter? Clara nodded. If they find out who Gray really is before she does, it won't just be your trust you'll lose. It'll be the whole project. Grayson stared at the city lights. She deserves the truth, Clara said. I know. Then tell her. He didn't answer. The next morning, Eden found Gray in the backyard, helping Noah replant a tiny sunflower. You're good with him, she said. Gray smiled. He's honest. Doesn't play games. No, he just tells you when he hates your hair. Gray chuckled. Still better than the boardrooms I'm used to. Eden froze. He caught it immediately. Too late. You said, she started. I meant, in my old job, he lied quickly. I worked with donors. Right. She didn't push. But later, she Googled again. And this time, she clicked deeper. Found a grainy video of a charity gala 2 years ago. Grayson Vale speaking about anonymous giving, seated beside Clara Vale. Same voice. Same smile. Same man. She leaned back in her chair, heart pounding. It was him. She reached into her drawer, held the silver pen. That night, she stayed late at the shelter. When she finally stepped outside, Gray was waiting by the gate, holding a small box. Thought you might need a walk, he said. She hesitated, then nodded. They walked the quiet block in silence. Stars above, distant traffic below. I have something for you, he said, opening the box. Inside, a tiny key. What is this? A locker. In the train station downtown. I left something there when I was younger. Thought you should have the key. Why me? Because you're the only person I've met who doesn't care what my last name is. Eden looked at him sharply. He froze. He started. She cut him off. You're Grayson Vale. The words landed like a punch. He didn't deny it. Didn't say a word. Just looked at her. Long and quiet. And broken. You lied to me. With your hands full of kindness. Eden stood motionless beneath the flickering porch light of Westside Haven. The silver key weighing heavy in her palm. Grayson Vale. The name now echoed like a crack in glass across everything they'd shared. Every glance. Every joke. Every story he'd listened to without flinching. Now poisoned by one truth. He had chosen not to tell her. And worse, he had let her fall for a man who didn't exist. Eden didn't show up the next morning, or the one after that. The kids asked for her. Noah sat beside her usual chair, clutching a crayon drawing of their cardboard rocket. Grayson stayed late, cleaned quietly, read stories, but the sparkle was gone. Even Layla noticed. She's not answering my calls either, she told him. She will, Grayson said, though he didn't believe it. Why didn't you just tell her? Layla asked. Because she looked at me like I was real, not a brand. Layla studied him. You're not a brand to these kids. You're just Gray. And that was enough. 3 days later, a blackout swept through the city. Westside Haven ran on backup power, but the lights flickered uncertainly. Dinner was a mess of peanut butter sandwiches and flashlight storytelling. Grayson stayed late, helping a small group of kids build a blanket fort. The shelter was dim, quiet, oddly peaceful. Around 9 p.m., Eden walked through the door. Every child froze. So did Grayson. She looked tired but composed. Her eyes found his immediately. Hey, she said simply. He stood. Hey, thought I'd check the emergency lighting system. Grayson smiled. It's terrible. Stay. She hesitated. Only for a minute. They ended up in the playroom, lit only by glow sticks and the flickering red exit sign. Nice ambience, she said. Very romantic, he joked. Silence. Then Eden took a step forward. You lied to me. Grayson nodded. I know. You let me call you Gray. Like it was some mystery. Like you were some guy off the street. I wanted to be. But you weren't. No, he said. I was the billionaire who could have ruined everything by just being honest. She folded her arms. Why didn't you just tell me at the gala? Because the first thing you said to me was that you hated people like me. Eden paused. That's not fair. No, Grayson agreed. It wasn't. But I wasn't trying to fool you. I was trying to find something real. She didn't respond. Instead, she reached into her coat and pulled out the pen. Held it out. He stared at it. I didn't come here for a confrontation, she said. I came to return this. He took it slowly. You deserve to keep it, she added. It never belonged to me. She turned to leave. But then the lights flickered and died. Pitch black. A beat of silence. Then laughter from the hallway. Children with flashlights running past. Grayson's voice broke the quiet. Do you remember the book? What book? The Boy and the Silent Star. She froze. He continued softly. There's a scene where they get trapped in a cave. No light. Just each other's voice. The boy thinks the star is going to leave him in the dark. Eden swallowed, and the star stays. Grayson took a cautious step forward. I never wanted to leave you in the dark, he said. I just didn't know how to be both. Both what? You're Gray, and the man with a name you hate. She didn't move. Then, from the hallway, a faint melody played. Someone had turned on a portable speaker, a lullaby from the kids' playlist. Grayson offered his hand. In total darkness, he said softly, Would you dance with me? Eden stared at him. Then, without a word, she stepped forward and placed her hand in his. They danced in the dark, two silhouettes moving quietly. The pen rested in his pocket again, but she didn't ask for it back. Later, she stood by the exit. Grayson walked her out. I don't forgive you, she said. I don't expect you to, but I don't hate you either. He looked up. That's progress. She nodded. You're still Gray to me, she added. But Grayson Vale has a lot of work to do. Then I'll start. She turned, walking off into the night. Grayson stood there for a long time, the sound of their footsteps still echoing. Even stars fall. It's what they do when they burn too long. Clara Vale said it without looking up, fingers tracing the rim of her teacup. Grayson stood by the window of her brownstone, jaw tight. I told her, he said. She knows. Clara turned, studied his face. And she came back. But, he exhaled. She doesn't trust me. Of course not, Clara said. Because the man she trusted wasn't real. He looked away. What if I don't even know who the real one is anymore? Clara didn't answer. The silence said everything. Meanwhile, Eden sat in her apartment, flipping through a folder she never thought she'd see. Westside Haven's donor records, the hidden list. Someone had leaked it, and there was in black and white. Grayson Vale, GV Holdings, anonymous funder since 2018. Total contributions, $3.2 million. She stared at the numbers until her eyes blurred. Every bed they'd saved, every child they'd clothed, every leak they'd patched. His money. All of it. Damn you, she whispered. At the shelter, the mood was different. Kids noticed. Gray didn't tell stories anymore. He showed up, stayed late, left quiet. Even Noah tugged his sleeve. Where's Eden? She's thinking, Grayson said. Noah frowned. Did you break her rocket? Grayson blinked. No, he said gently. But I think I bent it. On Friday, a letter arrived at Eden's desk. Official. Stamped with the Vale Foundation crest. It was from the board. Subject: termination of funding to Westside Haven, pending review of conflict of interest. One paragraph. Cold. Final. Her blood ran cold. She called Grayson immediately. He picked up on the first ring. What did you do? She asked, voice shaking. I tried to fix it. By getting me shut down? No, don't lie. I didn't. Eden, listen. I should have known better. She hung up. Clara watched Grayson slam the phone down. Well, she said, you've done it now. I never asked them to pull anything. But you gave them reason to question you. Grayson paced. I wanted to help. You did. You just didn't know when to stop hiding. He leaned against the wall, eyes closed. What do I do now? Clara stood slowly. You show her the truth. The next morning, Eden stood on the shelter's rooftop, early light painting the skyline orange. Layla joined her, holding coffee. Found this in the mailbox. It was an envelope. Inside, the silver pen. A note. For the one who sees beyond titles. If you can still see me. Gray. Eden didn't speak. Layla nudged her. You still believe he's just another billionaire? I don't know what to believe. But you still want to? Eden looked down, and didn't deny it. That afternoon, Grayson showed up at the shelter. Not in jeans, not in sneakers. In a suit. Clean. Sharp. Exactly the man Eden said she'd never trust. But this time, he wasn't hiding behind Gray. She met him outside. Nice costume, she said. He didn't flinch. I'm here as Grayson. I noticed. And I'm not asking for anything. No donation, no redemption arc. He smiled faintly. Just your ear. She hesitated, then nodded. They sat on the steps out back, feet in the sun. Grayson pulled out a folder. I wrote a report, he said. Everything I've funded. Every board note. Every donation. Every lie. She flipped through it slowly. This is a lot. I know. Why now? Because you deserve to decide based on facts, not shadows. She looked up. You think a report fixes what you broke? No, he said. But it might keep this place standing. Silence. Then Eden handed him back the file. I don't want your guilt, she said. I want your honesty. He swallowed. You have it. She stood. And for the first time in days, she didn't walk away angry. What's worse, the lie that protects something good, or the truth that burns it down? Eden asked the question without expecting an answer. But Grayson answered anyway. The lie, he said, because it means you never trusted what was good enough to stand on its own. She stared at him. They were standing in the shelter's tiny library, the only quiet corner left after the press storm exploded. 24 hours ago, the article dropped. Billionaire posed as volunteer to secretly fund shelter, scandal, or savior. By morning, the shelter's phone wouldn't stop ringing. News vans lined the block. Parents pulled their children from programs. Donors panicked. Some pulled out. And Eden was drowning. The article had printed photos from the gala from the shelter. Even one of her and Grayson sitting together on the rooftop, feet almost touching. It looked romantic. It looked staged. And worst of all, it looked like she'd known. She hadn't. But the press didn't care. Inside the library, Grayson handed her a cup of tea. She didn't take it. You said no one would ever know, she snapped. I didn't leak it. Then who did? Grayson exhaled. I have enemies on the board. And some of them don't like how much I've diverted into anonymous philanthropy. It makes them nervous. Eden turned away, and now the whole city thinks I'm sleeping with my donor. I can release a statement that'll make it worse. I'll say I manipulated you. Eden froze. What? I'll say I used your trust. That I never told you the truth. That I took advantage of you. She looked at him, eyes wide, voice shaking. You'd let yourself be dragged through the mud? If it keeps the shelter standing? Yes. Silence. Then she whispered, why do you care so much? And he said nothing. Because everything he wanted to say. Because I love you. Because I've loved the way you walked through fire for strangers. Because you saw me, when no one else did, would only make it worse. So he said, because the world needs places like this. And people like you. She looked down. And for the first time since the article broke, she took the tea. That night, Eden sat in her apartment, flipping through an old journal. A page fell loose. Tucked inside was a drawing. Crayon stars. A boy. A quote scribbled in childish scrawl. The silent star never left. Even when the boy was too angry to look up. She hadn't drawn it. A child had. Years ago. She closed the journal, tears burning behind her eyes. Across town, Grayson sat on the floor of Clara's kitchen, his head in his hands. She hates me, he said. She doesn't, Clara replied, calm as ever. She should, but she doesn't. She's being hunted by reporters because of me. Clara sipped her tea. Do you know why I let your father fund things anonymously? Grayson shook his head. Because the minute they knew his name, they stopped caring what was built. They only cared who built it. The world worships names, not goodness. Grayson nodded slowly. And now I've become the name. No, she said, kneeling beside him. You became the boy who stayed. The next morning, Eden showed up at the shelter early. The kids cheered. Layla stared. You okay? Eden nodded once. We still have a shelter. That's enough. Layla handed her a cup of coffee and a folder. Applications doubled since the article. Half of them say, if this is the place a billionaire wanted to hide in, it must be worth something. Eden blinked, then smiled. Small, brief, but it was real. Later, Eden found Grayson fixing the front sign. Someone had spray painted over the name. He looked up as she approached. I came to help, she said. He didn't move. She took the sponge from his hand and began scrubbing. For a while, they worked in silence. Then he whispered, you came back. I never left, she said. Not really. They stood, shoulder to shoulder, staring at the clean sign. Then Noah peeked out the front door. Eden, he yelled. Come quick. They ran inside and stopped cold. In the main room, every child was sitting in a circle, holding tiny paper stars. Layla explained. Noah said we needed to remind you the star doesn't leave. Eden blinked. What? Noah walked over, handed her a crumpled note. You're our silent star, it read. Even when you're mad. Eden looked up at Grayson. His eyes were shining. She held the note against her heart. You can rebuild a heart, but what do you do when they try to take the roof? Layla said it between clenched teeth, slamming the zoning notice on the table so hard the kids in the next room stopped laughing. Eden didn't flinch. She just stared at the letter like it was a bomb waiting to go off. Because it was. Zoning permit under review. Subject to suspension. 30 days to appeal. The city wasn't just questioning the shelter's funding anymore. They were questioning its right to exist. Grayson arrived 15 minutes later, still in his running clothes, sweat clinging to his back like guilt. What happened? He asked. Eden handed him the notice wordlessly. He read it once, then again, then sat down without saying a word. Layla crossed her arms. This happened often with your name attached to things? More than you think. Eden looked up. They're not just coming for us. They're using the press to open legal doors. Grayson nodded. Someone on my board is pushing this. Why? Because I stopped playing Billionaire. Layla scoffed. Well, we don't have time for a corporate morality play. We have a month. Grayson looked at Eden. I'll hire lawyers. Good ones. Eden hesitated, then nodded, but her eyes said something else. The next 2 weeks became a war zone of paperwork, signatures, and city hall visits. Eden stopped sleeping. Layla lost her voice. Grayson missed 2 board meetings and didn't care. They built binders of every testimony, every photo, every child's drawing. They taped Noah's note, "You're our silent star," to the front cover of the final appeal packet. But stress cracked everything. One afternoon, Grayson snapped at a staff member who asked him to move his car. Eden pulled him aside. "That's not who you are." Grayson looked away. "Maybe it is. Without the suit. Without the mask." "No," she said quietly. "The man who danced with me in the dark wasn't this angry." He closed his eyes. "Then help me find him again," he whispered. The day of the city hearing came too fast. The building was cold, sterile, full of men in ties who had never heard a child cry from hunger. Eden spoke first. Calm, sharp, full of truth. Grayson followed. No suit, just his voice. He told them about his mother, how she'd grown up in shelters like Westside, how she died young, but made him promise to always build doors for people with none. And for years, he said, "I did that with money, quietly, efficiently. But then I met people who taught me that presence is more powerful than wealth." He glanced at Eden, then at Noah, sitting beside Layla, holding a star. "I lied to them," he added, "but I stayed." Silence followed. Then the council voted to review, not reject. 30 more days. Not death, but purgatory. That night, Eden sat alone in the rooftop garden. Grayson joined her with 2 mugs of cocoa. "Not closure," he said, "but not doom either." She smiled faintly. "That's what we call a Tuesday around here." They sipped quietly. Then Eden spoke. "Do you regret it?" "Which part?" "Letting me believe you were someone else." Grayson looked at the sky. "No," he said, "because the man I was with you, that's who I've always wanted to be." She looked at him. "I'm still mad. I know, but I'm also tired of pushing you away." He blinked, then smiled, then didn't move, just let her lean her head on his shoulder. Downstairs, Clara entered the empty main room, walking slowly. Her eyes scanned the playroom. Books stacked, toys in boxes, the faint smell of crayons still in the air. Then she collapsed. A sharp cry echoed through the halls. Kids screamed. Staff ran. Eden and Grayson bolted down the stairs. They found Clara unconscious, barely breathing, hand clutching a folded paper star. Grayson dropped to his knees. "Call 911. Eden held his arm as his hands shook. Grief doesn't scream. It settles in the room like dust, quiet, weightless, everywhere. The hospital waiting room smelled like bleach and time. Grayson sat perfectly still, fingers intertwined, eyes locked on a crack in the floor tiles. Eden sat beside him, her hands curled in her lap, untouched coffee cooling on the table. Neither of them had spoken in over an hour. No one had to. The silence was louder than anything. Clara Vale had collapsed just before midnight. By the time the paramedics arrived, her pulse was faint, her breath thinner. Now, she was somewhere behind steel doors, machines doing what her heart could no longer do on its own. And all Grayson could think about was the way her hand had held that paper star. Crushed, smudged, like she'd known it mattered more than oxygen. "She's strong," Eden finally said. Grayson didn't look up. "She raised me," he murmured, "after my mom passed. She taught me how to lie well enough to survive in a room full of wolves." Eden turned. "She also taught you how to love," she said gently, "even when it hurt." Grayson swallowed hard. "She wrote something." Eden frowned. "What?" He reached into his coat pocket, unfolded the paper star Clara had gripped. Inside, in her handwriting, "If they take the shelter, give them the house." Eden blinked. "What does that mean?" Grayson exhaled. "My grandfather left her a townhouse on 58th. Empty, still in her name." Eden's eyes widened. "She wants us to move the shelter?" He nodded. "If zoning kills West Side, we start over." There. Later that day, Grayson was called in to speak with the doctor. Eden waited outside, pacing. He came out pale, exhausted, but steady. "She's stable," he said, "but they're keeping her under for a few days. Observation. Heart strain." Eden exhaled. Finally. But the weight didn't lift. Back at Westside Haven, the news had spread fast. Kids were quiet. Staff whispered. Noah refused to come out of the playroom. Eden found him curled in the reading corner, holding a pillow. "She's not gone," Eden said. Noah didn't answer. He pointed at a picture taped to the wall. It was a drawing of Clara reading to the kids. She read me the book, Noah whispered. The one about the boy and the star. Eden sat beside him. She was the star, he added. Eden put her hand on his back. Then you have to keep her light on, okay. He nodded, eyes glossy. Grayson called a meeting that night, boardroom style, but not a boardroom. He stood in the playroom, whiteboard behind him, staff circled on bean bags and plastic chairs. Eden watched from the back. He pointed to a layout sketch of the townhouse. 4 floors. Needs renovation. But the zoning is clean. No legal blockers. He looked up. We can rebuild West Side. Better. Smarter. And we do it before they shut this one down. Layla raised a hand. And if Clara doesn't wake? Grayson's jaw clenched. She will. Silence. Then Eden stepped forward. We do it. And just like that, the silence cracked. Hope slipped back in. Over the next days, the shelter transformed. Staff split into 2 teams. One to keep West Side open, the other to prepare the new location. Grayson worked like a man on fire. Eden barely saw him sit. They carried boxes, ripped out carpet, sketched paint colors. Noah drew stars on every empty wall. This way she finds us, he said. They didn't argue. One night, Eden walked into the townhouse. Found Grayson on the floor, shirt stained with primer, asleep against the wall. She sat beside him, watched him breathe, and whispered, "Don't burn yourself out trying to save everyone." He stirred, eyes opened. "I'm not trying to save everyone," he said. "Just the place where I became someone else." She reached into her pocket, held out the silver pen. He frowned. "I thought you kept it." "I did," she said, "but it belongs here, in the foundation." He took it, and smiled. The next morning, Clara opened her eyes. Her first word, stubborn. Grayson laughed. Eden cried. And for a moment, the silence was gone. It's not just a building. It's the only place I didn't feel invisible. Noah whispered it into Eden's sleeve, voice trembling as the movers packed books into crates nearby. She didn't answer, because what could she say to a 6-year-old who thought moving meant disappearing? Westside Haven had 7 days left. The zoning revocation was official. The appeal failed. Their time was up. The townhouse was almost ready. Walls painted, permits signed, classrooms labeled with stars. But the kids? They weren't ready. Not emotionally. Not spiritually. Not when the only place they'd ever felt safe was slipping out from under their feet like sand and water. Grayson stood in the center of the old library, staring at the empty shelves. The smell of crayon and old stories still clung to the air like memory. He was holding the pen again. Eden had given it back. It should have felt symbolic, hopeful. But today it felt like a full stop. "You should go," Layla said softly, appearing behind him. Grayson turned. "Go where?" "Back to your world. You've done more than anyone expected." He frowned. "This is my world." "Is it?" she asked. "Because the moment you walk into a meeting with your last name, half of this city forgets what you've done with your hands." He didn't answer, but the truth hit deep. That afternoon, the news broke again. Shelter loses appeal. Donors silent. Vale Foundation denies further comment. They hadn't denied support, but they hadn't affirmed it either. Grayson's board was distancing fast. Legal said he was too close. Personal said he'd lost perspective. He said nothing. Because how do you defend being a human when the world only sees you as a headline? Eden found him in the yard alone. He was fixing the garden bench. One last act of pointless resistance. "Gray," she said gently. He didn't stop hammering. "They're scared," she said. "I know. They won't follow us." "I know." She knelt beside him. "Neither will Layla." He looked up. "What?" She got another offer. A safer job. Better salary. No war zone. He sat back, eyes blank. "This place, it changed people," he whispered. "I know, but maybe not enough." She touched his hand, then pulled away. "I don't know how to lead if no one wants to follow," she admitted. He stood, and for the first time since the gala, his voice was cold. "Then maybe you're not the leader they need." Eden froze. Grayson's jaw tightened. He turned and walked away. The pen dropped from his pocket into the grass. He didn't notice. That night, Eden couldn't sleep. She walked through the shelter's dark halls. Noah was curled in the reading corner, hugging a drawing. She knelt. He woke up. "I had a dream," he said. "Yeah." We were in space. The old building flew away, but the star stayed. Eden swallowed hard. He opened the drawing. It was of the townhouse. Same stars. Same people. Different roof. She blinked. He pointed. The star followed us. The next morning, Eden stood before the entire shelter. Staff, kids, volunteers. She held the drawing high. This place isn't dying, she said. It's moving. With us. The kids stared. I know it hurts. I know we're scared. But pain doesn't mean it's wrong. Change doesn't mean it's over. We're still here. She looked down. At the silver pen, now in her hand. And we'll bring every memory. Every story. Every star. Noah stood first. Then another. Then all of them. They weren't cheering. They were just standing. Ready. But Grayson wasn't there to see it. Because at that moment, he was packing. Clara sat in his apartment doorway, watching. You're really leaving? She asked. They don't need me. They don't know how much they do. He zipped the suitcase. They need Eden. You built it together. He didn't answer. She stood, slipped something into his pocket. He looked down. It was the pen. And a note. You didn't fall, Gray. You just forgot where the ground was. He closed his eyes, but didn't stop moving. Sometimes it takes losing everything to remember what you were willing to fight for. The flight was boarding. Grayson Vale stood at gate 17, passport in hand, expression blank. He had no luggage, no assistant, no Clara, just one ticket, one flight, and one plan: disappear. Let Eden run west side, or whatever came next, without the shadow of his name, following her every step. He thought he was being noble. He thought he was letting her go. But as the line moved forward, a child's voice echoed in his memory. You're our star. He blinked and dropped the passport. 10 miles away, Eden stood on the steps of the new building, now dubbed New Haven House, staring out at a crowd of reporters, city officials, and community members. Today was supposed to be a soft launch, low-key, internal. But someone leaked it. Again, the media was back. And this time, they wanted Eden to speak. She wasn't ready. Layla was gone. Grayson was gone. Only Clara stood nearby, clutching a cane and looking far too calm for someone recovering from heart failure. You should talk, Clara said. Eden shook her head. It's not my story to tell. Clara raised an eyebrow, then borrow mine, and handed Eden a note. 20 minutes later, Eden stepped up to the microphone. Flashes went off. She didn't flinch. Westside Haven was never just about shelter, she began. It was about survival. It was about children who'd lost everything, and adults trying not to lose them. She paused, then added, it was also built with secrets, with money that came in quietly, without credit. That money came from a man who didn't want to be seen, but who needed to be. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Eden looked down. I was angry when I found out. I felt betrayed. But what I missed was something bigger. He didn't lie to deceive. He lied to belong. The crowd hushed, and Eden smiled. Today we opened the doors to New Haven House, built by all of us, with hands, hearts, and second chances. Applause thundered. Across the city, Grayson stood frozen at the terminal TV, watching her face as she spoke. Then he ran. Back at the shelter, the ceremony was closing. Eden stepped down from the podium, heart thudding. Children surrounded her. Noah hugged her legs. Volunteers clapped. Then a voice broke through the noise. Excuse me. She turned and saw him. Grayson, out of breath, shirt wrinkled, eyes wide. I missed the flight, he said. Shame, Eden replied, lips twitching. He stepped closer. I didn't want to leave. I just thought maybe I was the problem. You were, she said. He blinked. But you're also part of the solution. He let out a breath. I watched your speech. I meant it. He held up the pen. I kept this, even when I thought I shouldn't. She reached out, took his hand. You always should have, she said. The next day, headlines roared. Billionaire returns to shelter he secretly built, stays for good. And beneath it, a photo. Grayson, in jeans and a t-shirt, painting a wall. No suit, no press team, just a kid beside him, painting stars. That evening, Eden and Grayson sat on the rooftop of New Haven House. Noah joined them, holding a small notebook. Story time, he asked. Eden smiled. Only if you read. Noah opened the book. It wasn't The Boy and the Silent Star. It was a new one, handwritten, titled The Man Who Came Back. He read, Once there was a man who left everything behind, until he realized everything he needed was already here. Eden looked at Grayson. Grayson looked at her. Then they both looked at the stars. You can paint over a wall. You can't paint over memory. The letter arrived in a plain envelope with no return address. Eden almost didn't open it. She'd spent the morning helping Noah and the other kids build birdhouses in the backyard of New Haven House. Her hair full of sawdust, her heart full of peace. Until the past found her. Inside the envelope, a photograph. Faded, torn at the corner. Her at 15, standing in front of a burned-down building, next to a woman in handcuffs. Her mother. On the back, one sentence scribbled in blue ink. Does the city know who's really running their precious shelter? Eden dropped it. The air shifted. She picked it up again, slower this time, and noticed something else, the stamp. It wasn't postmarked local. It was from her hometown. Grayson found her 2 hours later in the art room, staring at the photo. He didn't ask what it was. He just sat beside her. After a while, she handed it over. He read the note, looked at her, said nothing, and then, softly, "You never told me." Eden's throat tightened. There's nothing to tell. He waited. She broke. My mother was arrested for arson when I was 15. She didn't mean to start the fire. It was cold. We had no heat. She lit a trash can inside the kitchen. It caught, and then everything went to hell. Grayson closed his eyes. Eden kept going. They took me in for questioning. I lied. Said I wasn't home. Said I didn't know anything. But I did. You were a child. I was terrified. She tried to keep you warm, Grayson said. That's not a crime. But it cost her everything. They sat in silence. Then Eden whispered, if this gets out, they'll use it. They'll try. I don't want the kids dragged into another scandal. Grayson touched her hand. Then we beat them to it. The next morning, they called a staff meeting. Layla had returned, part-time. Clara was present too, seated with a blanket and a clipboard. Eden stood, told them everything. Her voice didn't shake, not even when she held up the photo. I've spent my life outrunning this, she said. But shame doesn't shrink when you run. It grows teeth. Grayson stood beside her. I spent years hiding behind a name, he said. She spent years hiding behind her silence. No more. Clara nodded. You can't build a future on secrets, she added. Even good ones. That day, Eden submitted a public letter to the city. Yes, she wrote, I was that girl. Yes, that was my mother. But she was not a criminal. She was a woman trying to keep her child alive. The letter went viral. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was honest, raw, and because it was signed not just by Eden, but by every staff member and child at New Haven House. The press descended again. But this time there was no scandal. Only empathy. Only resonance. Donations rose. Volunteers signed up in record numbers. And an anonymous donor, later confirmed to be Clara, gifted the shelter a 10-year security grant. One night, Grayson pulled Eden aside, held out a folder. Inside, blueprints. A second house, he said. Eden blinked. Already, this one's for teens. A halfway program. Older kids, aged out of the system. She covered her mouth, then said, let's build it. Later that night, they sat in the garden. Noah ran up, holding a crumpled notebook. Read this, he said. Eden opened it. Inside, stick figures, stars, and a message written in messy block letters. The stars stayed, and then she got brighter. Grayson looked at Eden. She smiled, and this time didn't cry. You said the past doesn't define you, but what if it still calls your name? It was 2:12 a.m. when Eden's phone rang. The kind of ring that didn't echo in the air, it echoed in your spine. She stared at the screen. Unknown number. She answered. Eden, a woman's voice. Raspy. Thin. She stopped breathing. Mom. A beat of silence. Then a cough. I saw the article. Someone show me the picture. Eden sat up. You're alive. I didn't know if you want to hear from me, but I had to call. Eden's throat closed. All these years, she thought her mother had disappeared after prison, into some system, some street, some grave. But she hadn't. She was alive, and watching. 30 minutes later, Eden stood in the kitchen at New Haven House, hands wrapped around a cold mug of tea she hadn't sipped. Grayson found her there. She didn't speak, just handed him the phone. Her mother was still on the line. Grayson pressed it to his ear. "Mrs. Rivers," he said softly. A breath. Then, "Are you the one who loves my daughter?" Grayson blinked. "Yes." She let out a sound. Maybe a laugh, maybe a sob. "Then tell her she doesn't owe me anything. But if she wants to see me, I'm at St. Mary's, downtown. Room 314. They said not much time. That morning, Eden told the staff she'd be gone for a day. She didn't say why. Layla didn't ask. Noah ran to hug her anyway. Will the star come back? Eden kissed his forehead. Always come back. Grayson insisted on driving. They didn't speak for the first 10 minutes. Then Eden whispered, "What if I don't recognize her?" "You will." "What if I do and hate her?" He looked over. "Then I'll stay in the hallway. And be here when you're done." She nodded. Didn't say thank you. Didn't need to. Room 314 was small. Quiet. The kind of quiet that felt rehearsed, like the room already knew how to say goodbye. Her mother was thinner, gray-haired. Oxygen tubes curled around her face. But her eyes, those were still Eden's. "Hi," Eden said, barely audible. Her mother smiled. "Hi, baby." Eden sat down, and all the walls, all the decades, came crumbling. They talked for 2 hours. About the fire, the trial, the day she got out, the year she didn't write. "I thought you were better off without me," her mother said. "I thought you were dead," Eden replied. "I was. For a while." They cried. They laughed. And then, as the sun slipped through the blinds, "I saw what you built," her mother whispered. "You gave what I couldn't." Eden reached into her bag, pulled out something, a crumpled star. She laid it in her mother's hand. "You gave me this," Eden said. "You just didn't know it." Grayson waited in the hall the whole time. When Eden stepped out, her eyes were swollen but steady. "Take me home," she said. Back at New Haven House, something was off. Reporters outside. Again, Eden pushed through the door and found Layla standing tense. "What happened?" City inspector came by. Said there's a zoning discrepancy in the basement. Says it violates code. "What?" "They're threatening shutdown again." Grayson stepped forward. "No, not now. Not today." Layla shook her head. "They said we have 72 hours to vacate if it's not resolved." Eden froze, then turned. "Call the kids. Eden, all of them. We're not hiding. We're going to show them what this place means. To every child, every parent, every neighbor." She looked at Grayson. "Can you bring the press?" He nodded. "I'll bring the damn city council." That night, Eden wrote a letter. Not for the public. Not for the news. For her mother. "You gave me the fire. Now I'm using it. And I'm not afraid to burn." She sealed it. Placed it in the star box Noah had made her. And got ready to fight. Sometimes the people who claim to protect you are just afraid of what you'll build without them. The clock was ticking. 72 hours to vacate. But Eden didn't pack a single box. Instead, she printed flyers. Grayson called every local reporter with a name and a phone. Clara mobilized retired council members. And Layla finally found her fight again. By noon the next day, New Haven House was buzzing. Parents, kids, volunteers, neighbors. They carried signs. Home isn't a zoning error. You can't code out love. The media swarmed. But so did something else. Unity. And then came the betrayal. A sharply dressed man stepped out of a black car, escorted by 2 others. Grayson tensed. "Board member," he muttered. "Name's Foster." Foster smiled like a wolf. What a charming turnout. Eden stepped forward. "You're the one who leaked the zoning." Foster didn't flinch. "This place operates under emotion. But the city runs on law." "You falsified the violation," Grayson growled. "I revealed what was overlooked." Eden held up a folder. Then explained why the discrepancy was approved 2 weeks ago and buried. She flipped open city documents. Signed. Stamped. Legal. Foster's smile cracked. Reporters surged forward. Flashbulbs exploded. Clara stepped to the mic. "My name is Clara Vale. My family funded this shelter. And I have 3 things to say. 1, the permit is valid. 2, the inspector lied. 3, Foster Vale is my nephew. And this is why he'll never sit at my table again." Gasps. Foster turned red. Stormed off. The next morning, the city rescinded the violation. Official apology. New permit issued. And an offer. New Haven House will be the new city model for transitional childcare. That night, Eden stood in the backyard under string lights. Kids danced. Parents grilled. Volunteers cried. It wasn't a party. It was a survival celebration. She found Grayson by the fence, watching the stars. "You did it," she said. "No," he replied. "We did." She touched his hand. He turned. They kissed. Not like the end of a fairy tale. Like the beginning of something real. Later, Noah approached, holding a new notebook. "Can I read this?" Eden nodded. He opened the first page. Chapter 15. The House That Wouldn't Fall. Everyone cheered, and the starlights above flickered. But they didn't go out. Not this time. Some houses shelter bodies. Others shelter hope. 1 year later, the plaque went up in silence. Grayson stood beside Eden in the courtyard of New Haven House, now surrounded by gardens, murals, and something you couldn't see, but everyone felt. Peace. Carved into bronze. The Clara Vale Center, for stars who still believe. No one clapped, but Noah reached out and touched it first. And that was enough. Inside, the walls were covered in new art. Drawings, photos, quotes from the kids. And in the center hallway, framed in gold, a child's crayon letter that started it all. The stars stayed. Eden sat with Clara on the porch, sipping lemonade. "I still dream about West Side," Eden said softly. "You should," Clara replied. "You built it with your wounds. This one, you built with your hands." Eden smiled. "You were the star all along." Clara shook her head. "No, sweetheart. I was just the mirror." Grayson taught a class now, 1 night a week. How to build something that lasts. He never mentioned his name, just told stories, and listened more than he spoke. One afternoon, Eden got a letter. No return address. Inside, a new photo. Her mother, standing outside a community center upstate, smiling. On the back, "I'm building now, too." Eden placed it beside Noah's drawing. Legacy, side by side. That evening, she hosted a story circle in the garden. Grayson read The Boy and the Silent Star. When he finished, Noah tugged his sleeve. What happened next? Grayson glanced at Eden, smiled, and answered, "The boy built a house so big, no star ever had to leave again." Later, Eden walked through the halls one last time. Lights off. Quiet. She stopped in front of her office. On the desk sat a wrap box. She opened it. Inside, the silver pen. Polished. Re-engraved. New words. Built. Stayed. Became. She held it to her chest. Then walked outside. Grayson was waiting. They didn't say a word. Just laced fingers. And looked up. The stars didn't blink. They burned steady. And so the story ends. Not with a goodbye, but with a promise. That love, when seen, stayed, and chosen, become the place. A home. A legacy. And if you're lucky, a beginning.